Okay, so this is the data that we pulled down through Screaming Frog. I've simply pulled it out of the Excel spreadsheet and I've dumped it straight into Notepad. Now, I've performed this task hundreds and hundreds of times, so I'm well familiar with exactly how this process works. I'll share a couple of tips with you in order to help guide you through the process as well. The first thing that I'll say is I always work in Notepad when I'm performing this step. I don't like to work in a Google Sheet. I definitely don't do this live on the website. I don't use any sort of fancy software that sort of visually maps everything out with diagrams and anything like that. That's all too slow for me. It's too slow and there's too much potential there for mistakes. I like to use Notepad because I can move quickly, I can make changes immediately, and more importantly, I can see what the URLs are going to look like visually on screen. Okay, so I would recommend that you do the same. Now I'm going to work my way through this mess and work towards all of the good things that we spoke about, right? So working towards less, not more, tidying up the URLs, removing over optimization, making sure that we're correctly categorizing content, and putting things where they need to be, and working towards a site structure that we can actually look at and make sense of, as opposed to this mess. Okay, so let's start the process. I always begin this process by separating my URLs based upon where I believe they live. Now, as I said before, just a second ago, I've done this hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, and almost always this process fits every single model. There will be differences between services and products. If you're focusing on lead gen or SEO for lead gen as opposed to e-commerce, let's say, there'll be slight differences there. This is obviously lead gen. So the steps that I map out here for lead gen will always be the same for most lead gen sites, and the steps that I map out for e-commerce, will be the same likewise. So what I'm going to do is start with home up the top. The next level down is going to be core. The majority of the core pages, or at least at this step, the core pages will be things like about us, contact, and so forth and so forth. So we may as well just start digging through those. In fact, let's do the blog as well, and let's add services, because we know that they provide services, and let's also add locations. Okay, now this will get you out of trouble 99% of the time following this structure. Okay, so home, core, services, locations, and blog. I understand there'll sometimes be differences depending upon the type of campaign and everything else that you're working on, but this is what I use, and like I said, this will work for 99% of the time. Okay, so core, this will be pages like that. Now the home should just be the root URL, the domain. That's it. So core, let's gather up all of the pages that would live at that second tier down. So about us, contact us would live at the core, up the top here. What else have we got here? These are location pages. Okay, our team, that would live at the core as well. And as you'll see, guys, as I'm working my way through this, I'm not adding a million different categories. As you can see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. Okay, I haven't started trying to make this more difficult than it needs to be. I'm not adding a million categories or thinking about subcategories. I'm just thinking, about the big picture. If I work my way through this process and things do get a little bit complicated, I might start adding or removing things at this level here. But typically speaking, this is what I work with, and this is usually what works all of the time. Okay, so we'll keep moving through. We've got a location page in there. Okay, so that seems to be everything for the core. What have we got next? Okay, so services. In fact, let's just jump in here. I can see there's some blog stuff here, so let's grab that and move that under blog. Author, okay, so that's going to be under blog as well. We've got this weird stuff here, so let's, in fact, I'm not going to put that under not sure. I'll just leave that for the moment. Best Cafe, Sunshine Coast. I don't know what that is. For the moment, I'm just going to put it under blog. This is probably a page that I'd get rid of, but it seems to me it sounds like a blog post. If, of course, you're not sure, just copy the URL and take a look at it. Okay, let's see what this is. This is an unusual one for sure. Okay, 3 best cafes on the Sunshine Coast that are perfect for families. So I don't even know why that's there. That has nothing to do with family law. It's a cafe review. So that's very strange. So we'll leave it there. It's definitely a blog post. We'll leave it there. Let's keep moving through. So I can see here that we've got offices, how to resolve. So these two here look like blog posts. We'll move those up. We'll just double check that. So this looks like a blog post. How you can get custody of your child, right? So that's a blog post. You'll soon see the problems that exist with this site structure, but I don't know what this one is here. What's this? Is this a category? Oh, sorry, is this a blog post? Okay, so that looks like that's a blog post as well, so that goes in blog. This one here looks like another blog post. Let's copy that. Let's have a quick look. All right, so what is this? So this is what makes it difficult. Okay, so this is a blog post because it's not categorized at all, and this is what makes this is the exact problem, right? So I wasn't sure if this was a service page or a blog post. It's obviously a blog post because I can see over here recent posts. Family lawyer Maroochydore. So this sounds like a location page. Family lawyer Maroochydore. Right. So this is obviously a page that's being created in order to try and rank for this particular location. Okay, so we'll have to try and make sense of this mess. So to begin, we'll dump that under locations. We'll probably have to come back to that. We can see we've got more location pages here. These look like, and again, it's really confusing because this is dumped directly off the root. This one is off offices, which I'd probably have to have a look at the Brisbane family lawyer. Okay, so this is obviously a location page, but I'm not quite sure why it lives under office. Where would that go? Where would that family law services? I'm looking, what I'm doing here is I'm mousing over down the bottom here to see where /offices actually lives. If I'm not sure, I'm just going to go back to /offices in. Right, so that's a problem. So these pages currently hang off a category that doesn't even exist. And that's terrible. That's not good at all because it's not going to be passing link equity. Okay, it doesn't make any sense. So that's a problem. Okay, so we'll keep going. Now, these pages here, all of these pages here look to be suburb pages that have been built for the Sunshine Coast. I'm familiar with the Sunshine Coast, but I know just by looking at them that these would be suburb pages for the Sunshine Coast. So if I went to, I don't know, let's try Peregian Springs. If I go to Google and I type in Peregian Springs, enter that in, it should tell me that Peregian Springs is a suburb on the Sunshine Coast, Queensland, Australia. Okay, so these are definitely suburb pages, and there's a lot of them. Okay, which is it's okay, but it's not great. I have looked through some of these suburb pages, and from what I can remember, the content was almost identical, which is, that's not great. We won't get into that for the moment, but these are all location pages, and these are all, like I said, suburb pages for the Sunshine Coast. Now, the first thing that comes to mind when I see that is, well, okay, so where is the parent region page for the suburb pages? Because they really should live under something like Sunshine Coast. So let's get rid of this uncategorized URL. Let's just dump that down the bottom. We'll come to that later. I'm trying to clean up this Sunshine Coast stuff. Let's see what this is. See if we can get this out of the way. Family lawyers, spousal maintenance. So what is this? This looks like a service page. So this is one area of family law. One part to the family financially support the other part. Okay, so this looks like it's a service-based page. Thankfully, they've got a call to action here. So this looks to be a service-related page. So we'll move this up into services. We'll come back and we'll tidy this stuff up in just a minute. But let's grab these suburb pages for the Sunshine Coast. And as you can see, I've put them all under / Sunshine Coast for the moment. So let's do that. Let's get them up under locations. And guys, I'm sure just by watching in on this already, you're probably looking at this and thinking, wow, this is a real mess. And there are pages and categories all over the place. And a lot of this stuff isn't categorized correctly. Not only do we have, a main category page that doesn't exist, we've got a lot of conflict around the way in which they're structured, and also over-optimization within our URLs. So we've got, for example, say, we can see here we've got / offices / family lawyer Sunshine Coast, Alexandra Headland family lawyers, which I'm sure some of you might be looking at thinking, well, what's wrong with that? Well, there's everything wrong with that. And I'll show you in a minute how to clean that up and make it, clean it up and make it a lot less congested, let's say. So, all right, so we got blog. What else have we got down here? We got practice areas. So I've just found another category for locations, which is / practice areas, family law, divorce. So this has got to do with divorce, and I don't know, what's under practice areas? Practice areas. Oh, okay, so I've just found a new page here that I wasn't aware of, and there's stuff in here that doesn't have anything to do with family law. So this causes even more confusion. Commercial law, criminal law, migration law, and defamation. So I don't even know how to get to, is there a navigation around practice? What is this? Practice areas. So again, I'll just mouse over the main navigation here and watch what I'm seeing down the bottom to see if I can. Okay, so / Sunshine Coast, Sunshine Coast, Sunshine Coast. These are all / Sunshine Coast. Then it goes to service areas, and now I'm seeing Brisbane, Caboolture. I'm seeing a whole bunch of other pages. I have a feeling that Screaming Frog has missed some pages here, and this is exactly my point. When things get really messy like this, like there's probably pages that Screaming Frog hasn't picked up because they're orphan pages, or they haven't been categorized correctly. If Screaming Frog isn't picking up pages, then there's a good chance that Google's not picking up pages either. And I can tell you just from user standpoint, navigating around the website, this is really confusing because I'm not sure, there's no consistency here at all. I'm just sort of bouncing around all over the place. It's not great. So I can see that if I mouse over divorce services, I'm looking at divorce and separation, not knowing that I'm now within practice areas. So I don't even know if I can actually get back to the parent category page, which is here. I kind of feel like for whatever reason, this page has been hidden away. So all of this is problematic. Again, I just don't know if I can, where does this take me? Okay, this takes me to / Sunshine Coast estate lawyers. Where does this take me? Conveyancing fixed fees, again under Sunshine. Okay, so locations, where does this take me? This takes me to / okay, so I've just clicked on locations and I can see that I've gone to / Sunshine Coast, but I also have these other options here which take me to / Sunshine Coast, as well as, oh, okay, so I'm not quite sure. So I can see what they've tried to do here. They've got the Sunshine Coast parent category page, or parent region page as I refer to them, but they've dumped in a few other options here, as well as their suburb pages, which is all of this nonsense that we're looking at down the bottom here. So, or is it? Because hang on a minute, let's just double check. So if I go to, I don't know, let's go to Caloundra, / Caloundra, and look at the URL. Okay, so I'm now at / offices, family lawyers. So I've, for whatever reason, I have left, I was at / Sunshine Coast, and now I've gone to / offices. So this is a real mess. All right, so yeah, there's problems all over the place here with incorrect categorization, and the site structure is an absolute disaster. So I don't know what to make of this. Sunshine Coast social media. I don't know why is this here? Sunshine Coast social media. We're featured in social media. Oh, what is all of this? Okay, so this page can probably be deleted. That would definitely be deleted. I'm not even sure where to put that. So let's just put that down. Actually, let's put that down the bottom under God knows. Okay, so what do we got down here? So this is where it starts getting weird into other service offerings. So this is definitely not one of the worst sites that I've seen, but it's definitely somewhat confusing. This is for conveyancing. So this lives under Sunshine Coast conveyancing. Again, this is a little bit confusing. So I might just go to the bottom here and have a quick look through. So again, we've got Sunshine Coast traffic lawyers. We've got more what appear to be blog posts. Okay, so these are definitely blog posts. I can see that just by the nature of the URL. So we'll move that up into the blog. And what I might do here real quick, because I know this video is starting to get long, I might just pause the video and continue on trying to make some more sense of this. And once I have a better idea of where these URLs actually need to live, because I can see, I'm starting to see traffic lawyers in here, and also I'm concerned that we've got criminal law and some other stuff in here that we weren't aware of previously, because Screaming Frog didn't find this other stuff. So, where were we previously? Here? Yeah, so practice areas. Like Screaming Frog didn't find this stuff in here. So maybe this particular client doesn't provide these services anymore. I don't know. But without this turning into a 2-hour-long video, I might just stop the recording and pause the recording just for a moment and continue on and try and get myself into a better position here, and then we'll start tidying up the URLs. Okay, so I had to pause the video just for a minute to get my head around this, because this is actually probably one of the worst sites I've seen in terms of site structure. It's definitely not the worst, but it's pretty close, because as you can see, as I'm navigating around, there's no correct categorization of anything. And this is being reflected in the way in which information is being presented on the page. It's constantly changing and different. The navigation up the top is throwing me into different areas of the website. Now, it'd be fair to say that most users wouldn't care, and they'll just navigate around and click on whatever they see on screen. However, from an SEO standpoint, this is problematic for all of the things, all of the reasons that I've covered in previous lessons. So it's really important that you make a point. You can see, obviously, hopefully now you can see just how bad this can get if you don't actually plan out site structure. And this has a flow-on effect, as I've pointed out, into other areas. Now, what I'm going to do here is I've gone back to this page here that touches or lists out all of the practice areas. Now, I'm not even sure the wording on this page is correct, because we're really not talking about areas. We're talking about practices: family law, wills and estates, commercial law, defamation, migration, and criminal law. Now, again, I don't know if this particular client still provides these services. I'm going to assume, just for the sake of this demonstration, that they are, so that I can show you how to accommodate for that in a way in which you can put together a nice clean site structure and have URLs that will allow you to add and remove different service offerings, or in this case practices, without the entire site falling apart. So let's begin by focusing on services, and then from there we can move to locations. I think the location stuff here is going to be pretty straightforward. Okay, now I took just a moment to go back and look at this page here, like I said, the practices, and I'm starting to think ahead, right? I'm thinking ahead about how I can accommodate for all of these service offerings from the top down. So I'm thinking about the parent category page, which would be something pretty similar to this, right? But it has to, we have to have that that parent-child or the correct categorization, each layer, each level down. And it needs to be done with some thought. So, like I said, expansion and contraction, things aren't going to catch fire or blow up when those services change over time. So now there could be many different ways to do this. For the moment, I've chosen /law as my parent category page. Why? Because these are all, one way or another, this is all to do with legal. Now, I've chosen law as my parent category page, so a default, or the parent service page or category page, would be /law. What would we see if we were to navigate to this page? We'd see something like this, and maybe could use tiles. This is actually not too bad in terms of navigation, because we could land on this page and go, okay, well, I'm interested, I need help with family law. Boom. And then from there, the next level down, the subcategory of family law might look again something similar to this, where you've got a whole bunch of service offerings that have to do with family law. In fact, I think if we go to the home page here, they do this, I'm pretty sure they do this on the home page here. They do it really, really well. Divorce, joint application divorce, children and parenting, property settlement, domestic violence. This is all to do with family law. So this is an excellent, what they've done here is excellent. They've just done it perhaps in the wrong place. So having this layout in particular, I'm a big fan of this layout. You could use this at the parent category level. So for law, you would see, instead of seeing tiles or navigation that relate to family law, you would see, all of the things that we just saw on the previous page, which would be wills and estates, commercial law. So we might have 6 tiles, right? You can see now what I mean by your site structure tying in with information architecture and also site navigation, as well as user experience. So if they were to bring something like this, if they were to bring something like this over onto the home, into their parent category page, and then branch down from there and just repeat this style and this layout at each level, that would be fantastic, because users can find what they're looking for pretty quickly. Just at a quick glance, you can come here and go, divorce, that's what we need, boom, and that takes you straight to the service page. So let's go back to that practice areas page, and what I'm going to do here, so I've just settled for the moment, I've just settled on /law. Now under that, given that we provide the following legal services, we might do something like this. So we've got family law, brilliant. Now we might have wills and estates. And we've got commercial. Right, now you should be able to see that I'm not commercial law, commercial law. I've got / law as the parent category, and then from there I've got / commercial, and that is it. Someone goes to commercial law, boom. They land on the commercial page. That's it. All of our, like I said in my previous lessons, let your on page do the heavy lifting. You're going to have commercial law in the title. It's going to be in the meta description. It's going to be in all of your header tags. It's going to be in the content. It's going to be on the in the images. You're going to have internal links driving using relevant keyword-rich anchors pointing to that page, as well as external links. All of these signals help Google understand what the page is about. There's no need to stuff your URLs full of keywords. Okay, so we've got family, we've got wills and estates, and I'm just going to repeat this process for each of my URLs. So the next one would be criminal, right? And then we've got migration. You can see how nice and clean this is. And then we've got defamation. How do we spell that? Defamation. Brilliant. Okay, great. That's it. Now, you might be thinking, well, hang on a minute. There's different parts of family law. And this is where you need to be really careful and think things through so that you don't end up with URLs that are too long. And in some cases, guys, like I said, I'll work through this process a number of times before I'm happy with it, before I get it right. And, you know, I might even change this and think, okay, well, law, maybe I drop the law and we look at just using these under legal or something else. There are other ways to do this, which I won't get into in this video. So for family, and I don't want you to get too hung up on that. It doesn't really matter. For most cases, this will get you through. So under here, we will have divorce. Okay, and the same thing again, family, application, divorce, joint application perhaps. If that requires a second page. This here might be a great example of where content should be consolidated. Okay, do we really need a joint application divorce page as well as a divorce page, or are they that similar that we can just consolidate and put information that covers both of those topics on one page? Children and parenting, so you'd have to make a decision there as to whether or not you need both children and parenting. I'd probably just leave it like this, children, parenting, and you can see I haven't put the word and in there. We don't want to use stop words in the URLs. It's just a waste of space. Next will be property settlement. So you might want to consider using just / property there, unless, of course, there's different types of property settlement. In fact, let's just leave it as it is. So property settlement. Next is domestic violence. Okay, so you can see already, like, I've spelled that wrong. You can see already, like, hopefully you can see already, like, just how important this is and how much time is usually involved. This is only a relatively small site. For bigger sites, this becomes fairly time intensive. You'll get faster at this, guys, and this is why I say, like, rather than going through this process every single time for each project that you're working on, build out niche specific web templates so that you map out the site structure and you know, okay, brilliant, we've got another family lawyer, we've already got the site structure mapped out, bingo, boom. You upload the site and you just migrate all of the content over to most appropriate pages. So you don't have to go through this process every single time. So domestic violence, relationship agreements. So what I'll do is I'll pause the video real quick, I'll continue mapping this out, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. Okay, so I've finished mapping out our URLs for family law. As you can see, we've got a parent category page at the top for / law, and this would host all of the navigation. that I mentioned just a minute ago that would help a person navigate around and find what type of law they actually need assistance with. We've got all of our URLs mapped out so we can see law, family, joint application, divorce, children parenting, property settlement, domestic violence, and so on and so on. Now, this is for family law. We can repeat the same process. Okay, sorry, this is family. We can repeat the same process following the same concept for other types of legal services. So, just for example's sake, if we're thinking about criminal law, we would do the same thing. So we would have our subcategory page here for criminal, and then under that we would have, arson, drugs, cybercrime, and so on and so on. And we would simply add those pages as needed. And again, if the client came to us and said, okay, we're not doing criminal law anymore, we can just disconnect that and we'll be fine. Now again, I don't know if this particular client is still providing these other services, but I just wanted to walk you through that to show you the process behind how I perform this action and how you need to think about mapping out site structure in a logical way. Okay, so we've now got our family law pages set and ready to go. We would need to make sure that this other stuff here, we got criminal, wills and estates, commercial, migration, defamation. This is, of course, in order to do this effectively, you would need to communicate with the client, okay? Which one of these services do you do? Are there any of these services that you don't do? Does this look right? Have we missed anything? Make sure to get their feedback. Okay, now let's move on to locations. And one other thing that I'll say real quick here, if at any point you're not sure how to structure your URLs, or if you're looking for a little bit more guidance and advice, just try, like I said, reverse engineer other sites to see how they've got their URL structures mapped. Okay, just make sure, and you can do this by just copying the URL and pushing it through Screaming Frog, just like we did for this one. Just make sure, guys, that you don't copy garbage, because there's plenty of sites out there like this. Could you imagine if someone reverse engineered this site and copied this site structure? You're just copying nonsense. So I found that, and probably because I've done this so many times, I've found that because I've been through this process so many times, I just know off the top of my head, okay, this is the best way to do it. And as you can see here, I'm working towards less. Okay, I'm working towards less. This is so, so important. I haven't done this, right? For example's sake, I haven't done family lawyers, family law, family lawyer, divorce. I haven't done that for a reason, because that's just over optimization and it's ridiculous. Okay, so rule number one is always try and clean up your URLs. You want nice, clean URLs. All right, so let's keep moving on, and we'll move now into locations. Now, the first thing I want to say here is I'm a little bit confused as to which locations this particular client services, because they've got Sunshine Coast everywhere. It's all over the home page. It's in the title tag. It's in the main, header tag on page here. It's absolutely everywhere. It's all to do with Sunshine Coast. However, if I navigate over the main navigation here, I can see service areas, and I see Brisbane, Caboolture, and then some of these other areas. So I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure which of these areas they actually service. And again, this is a great example of where you need to have a conversation with the client. So which service areas are we focusing on here? Are there any in here that need to go? Because the answer to that will help your structuring, your site structuring processes. So for this example, I'm a little bit confused as to why they've got Brisbane and Caboolture. These are two completely separate areas to the Sunshine Coast. What I might do, just to show you how I would structure the site to accommodate for those additional areas, even if they don't provide services in those areas, I'll show you how I would do this anyway. so that I'm not just giving a demonstration on one single area. So the first thing, very, very simple, I would start mapping out my parent region pages. Okay, these are going to be the parent pages that will host all of our suburb pages. It's a little bit different overseas, I get it. Suburb pages, I think in the US they might have townships and counties and so forth. Again, think about that, that top-down model. Okay, you would have the country at the top, then you would have the state, then you would have the city, and then what comes after that? Here in Australia, at least, it would be suburbs. So, okay, so let's say, for example's sake, that we've got 3 locations. We would have Brisbane, so / Brisbane would be to accommodate for Brisbane. The next might be Caboolture, which is in the menu. Again, I don't know if they actually provide service that area or not. What happens if I click on it? Where does this take me? Okay, Caboolture Family Lawyer. So there's a page there. This is probably duplicate content again, who knows. But there is a Caboolture page there. And the last one, we're just going to do Sunshine Coast. Okay, I'll leave it at that, just so that we can get through this quickly. Maroochydore. Wow, okay, so what is this one? I'm pretty sure we looked at this one already. Maroochydore. Okay, so another location page. So really not sure. Okay, so you can see down here they've already started doing this. They've got Brisbane, Caboolture and Sunshine Coast, but it's under offices, which is a category that doesn't exist. So we get, oops, page cannot be found. So that's not great. We need to fix that. So instead of this nonsense, I'm going to do it this way. Okay, and it's going to be nice and easy, and you'll see the difference. Maroochydore, let's just check this. In fact, we'll leave it out. We'll leave it out because we'll be here we'll be here forever. So Sunshine Coast, we've already got that. Now, all of these pages down below here, these are all suburb pages of these are all suburbs of the Sunshine Coast. So what I'm going to do is, rather than going through and cleaning this up manually, I'm going to see if I can cheat here and use a find and replace within a notepad. You might be able to do this. I'll pause the video so I don't have to watch this, but I'm going to try and clean this up and categorize all of these suburbs under the Sunshine Coast, because like I said, these are all suburbs of the Sunshine Coast. So I'll pause the video real quick and I'll come back. Okay, so I've cleaned up that list. I actually did a find replace within Notepad, and then I cheated using ChatGPT to get it into the formatting that I needed. This might be something that could help you with this process, but it was certainly a lot faster than doing it manually. So now I have all of my suburbs in lower text, and I've stripped out all of that nonsense in the URLs, and I've also replaced any spaces with a hyphen. Now from here, I need to add this section of text at the very beginning. I want to put this at the very beginning of each of these suburbs. I might be able to actually do this within ChatGPT. Let's see. Okay, great. So this is doing exactly what I need. Right. So as you can see, I've added in my parent category page, in this case / Sunshine Coast, followed by the suburb. The only difference, I think the only thing I would change there is add a following / to the end of each URL. It doesn't really matter, but this is, in fact, it does matter, because once you start implementing your internal navigation, your internal links, your URLs and everything else, you want standards. It's really important that you follow standards because you don't want URLs without the trailing slash and have some with the trailing slash and some without. You want them all to be identical. You want them all to be the same, because they'll actually show up as separate URLs within Screaming Frog, and that can cause confusion. Okay, great. So just by looking at this, you can see already how much cleaner this is. We can look and we know, okay, brilliant. We're going to have a parent category page on the Alex Mandry website. If someone was to go to, let's say, Sunshine Coast, if they clicked on, if there was one, I'm not even sure there is one here. They clicked on, let's see if I can find it. Right, so they've gone to the Sunshine Coast page, and a Sunshine Coast page might look something similar to this. Obviously, the design here isn't great, but the Sunshine Coast page would look like this, and it would host all of our suburb pages. Now, there have been a number of members in the group who have built out some really nice-looking parent region pages where the suburb pages are laid out, and they just look fantastic. So if you are interested, be sure to ask in the group and get some feedback for that. But this would be our Sunshine Coast parent region page, and that's exactly what this is. Now, instead of all of those crazy URLs that we had just a moment ago, which they actually leave the main category page, and we're in offices, family, blah, 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 blah. We now have nice, clean URLs, and we know just by looking at them, okay, well, this is Budrum, and this is a suburb of the Sunshine Coast. Right, now, instead of this sort of nonsense and this craziness, right, that looks like this, right, and you saw it just a minute ago, we've got something that looks like that. Right? Huge difference. Okay, and it's just much, much easier. Now, you might be thinking, well, hang on a minute. If we're stripping out all of the family lawyer stuff from the URL, well then how is that page still relevant? Again, let your on page do the heavy lifting. You're going to have family lawyer, Moffat Beach, let's say, in the title tag. It's going to be in the on-page content. It's going to be in your header tags, meta description. It's going to be absolutely everywhere. So there's no need to keyword stuff your URLs. And of course, we would repeat this same process for each different location. For the moment, I've just done Sunshine Coast, but you could certainly do that for Caboolture. You could repeat the same process for Brisbane, Adelaide, Melbourne, and so on and so on. Okay, let's now take a quick look at the blog. Now, for the blog is very, very simple. I would strongly recommend everyone in the group categorize the blog by using /blog. Okay, so the parent category page for the blog should be /blog, and everything lives under that. We're doing that for a reason, because we want to be able to track the performance of our blog posts, just the same as we are for all of our pages, because remember, we're tracking conversions and not rankings. By using page path level 1 and tracking all of the conversions that take place within the blog, we can quickly see which blog post entries are leading to conversions, whether that be a customer inquiry via phone or email or a product purchase or whatever that conversion event might be. If everything is correctly categorized under /blog, that will help us, because we'll be able to use that information within our reports. So as you can see at the moment, everything is just dumped straight off the root, and that gets really hard to track and measure. So I would strip all of this stuff out, which I'll do now. And I only ever use /blog. I have seen some SEO consultants say, oh, you need a different category for every section of the blog, and that's just nonsense, because you end up, it takes you straight back to where you first started. You end up with a million categories and site bloat, and it becomes impossible to make any sense of it. So that's what I would have for my blog. And of course, you're going to have author pages and pagination and everything in there. You might want to just no index, no follow that stuff. Again, there should be no need to keyword stuff your URLs. I never really spent too much time worrying about the URLs within my blog, just so long as, most times with WordPress, it will just reflect the title within the URL, which is fine. Okay, so let's move on now. Now, services, again, I think we've already covered this, so let's do a quick recap. So we've got our home page. We have our services now, which is mapped out. We've already been through that. We have our parent category page, which is law. We've accommodated for additional types of legal services, and we've also got locations. And lastly, we have the blog. Now, of course, this stuff down the bottom here, this would have to be categorized. This is obviously traffic law, which would have to be categorized appropriately. We've got child support, children's issues, and that this would probably be categorized up the top. I might just clean this stuff up real quick just to finish it off. And then we'll begin the next steps of mapping out our site restructure planner. Okay, so I've moved up that stuff that was down the bottom. I found there was a couple more services for family law, and I moved those up. A couple of them were duplicates, so I've cleaned that stuff up. Now, you may have seen there were a couple of things down the bottom here for traffic lawyers. Now, we do, in fact, I don't think okay, so I haven't created a section for traffic, so we'll do that. This will accommodate, this will be our main page for traffic law. Now, as you can see under here, we've got a page, and that would get rid of this one, obviously. But we've got this page here where it says it's traffic lawyers Cotton Tree. So Cotton Tree is a suburb of the Sunshine Coast. Now, obviously, this page has been created with the thought process of, okay, someone types in traffic lawyer Cotton Tree, which is on the Sunshine Coast. Now, chances are this page probably performs for that term. I don't know. I can't see it getting a lot of traffic, but I'm going to be covering this in depth at some point and showing you some examples as why it's never a good idea to start blending your product or services with locations, because it causes major site bloat. I've spoken about this at length, so I would not recommend doing this, because if you've got 10 service offerings and you service 50 locations, if you start blending the two, you're going to have to create, it's 10 times 50. You're going to have to create 500 pages, which is just madness. So in this case, I would not be doing that. What I would be doing is I'd scrap this completely, the Cotton Tree page, the suburb for traffic law, and instead, within our Sunshine Coast, within our Cotton Tree page, hopefully we've got one in here. Okay, we don't. All right, so let's just add one in. We had a Cotton Tree page here for the Sunshine Coast. Let me just double check here in case I've missed it. Hopefully I haven't. Okay, so I don't see it. So we've got Cotton Tree, suburb page for the Sunshine Coast. On that page, we would list briefly all of our service offerings. So we would say, hey, Alex Mandry Legal Group, we provide the following legal services on the Sunshine. We've serviced the Sunshine Coast for 35 years, and we provide the following legal services. And this is where you can start touching on. We do family law and all of these service offerings that I've got up here. We do criminal law, wills and estates, commercial law, migration law, traffic law, and everything else. Now, given that this is a suburb page, it's going to take very little effort for that page to rank for numerous service offerings. Okay, so don't get hung up on, don't make the mistake of blending products and services together with locations, because you'll end up back where you started. Okay, now, to finish this video off, I want to show you visually, and yeah, we've got a couple of URLs down the bottom here that make absolutely no sense. We've got an uncategorized, which doesn't belong anywhere, and we've got this weird social media page, which we'll delete. Okay, so there'll be some pages that will be earmarked for deletion. Okay, I think that's everything. Okay, so this is where we've ended up. So to show you a comparison between what we started with and what we now have, this is the difference. Okay, so this is what we started with. We had an absolute mess. Keyword stuffed pages, nothing's categorized, everything is over optimized. The URLs give me a headache just looking at them. There were navigation issues on site. I can't imagine the amount of wasted or potentially lost link equity. It's just an absolute nightmare. and there's just been no thought or consideration given to site structure at all. So we've started with this, and now we have that. Okay, you can already see, like, not only are there much fewer pages, but it's a lot cleaner and easier to look at. Okay, and this is what you want to be aiming for each and every time you work your way through this process. Now, given that this is only one site, and chances are you might like to watch me, or watch in rather, and how I might handle different sites, I'm going to go through the process of performing this task and mapping it out in Notepad for just a bunch of random sites that I might pull off the internet. Obviously, I'll try and work through the process much, much quicker, but I think it might be handy for you to watch in and see me work through this process maybe 2 or 3 more times for a couple of different sites.